What up, y'all? I'm Naomi.
And I'm Andy. We're a real-life couple and a real-life couple of comedians. You know Naomi from Two Dope Queens in Broad City.
And Andy's written for everyone from Pete Holmes to Cedric the Entertainer.
Besides our exciting TV credits, we're also the hosts of the comedy podcast Couples Therapy, which features stand-up comedians who are close doing sets together about their relationship.
You'll hear from siblings who should not be roommates, married couples who hate each other's moms, and co-hosts who have become codependent.
Episodes feature everyone from SNL's Sashir Zameda and Nailed It's Nicole Byer to Daily Show correspondents Ronnie Chang and Roy Wood Jr.
Not to mention First Wives Club's Michelle Buteau and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend's Rachel Bloom.
And sometimes we even have guests come into the studio to talk about relationships. Like when Danielle Brooks from Orange is the New Black came in and I tried to make her my friend.
How'd that work out?
Not great! I mean, tune in and find out.
The Couples Therapy Podcast is like if therapy was funny and you didn't have to pay for it. New episodes drop every Tuesday.
Download it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Enjoy Incredible Health with me, your host, Dr. David Vitko. I'm a chiropractic physician with over 30 years' experience in helping your neighbors and loved ones to enjoy a healthier, happier life, and potentially much longer, too. Well, happy Easter. This is a wonderful time of year, I believe. Spring is in full blossom. The grass is growing. A lot of people might not like that, but even though we have to cut it, it's still cool. It's great stuff. Nothing like the smell of fresh cut grass, huh? And the flowers are up, and you can smell those too. Another good reason to eat healthfully, because your sense of smell improves so much, and things like springtime allergies fade into the distance, and you don't suffer near as much, if at all. When you eat healthfully over a period of time, those stuffy nose issues go away. Trust me, I've been there, and that's part of the reason that I'm doing this. But temperatures are starting to climb, except for today. It was a little chilly out this morning. Go figure. But Easter, huh? Yeah, we've had snow on Easter in the past, I know. But thank God the temperatures are climbing in general. And I want to thank John and Melissa, the engineers here at WKBN this morning, because if you didn't notice, the station was off the air there for quite a while. And I was driving in, and Keith Kennedy, who kind of runs the whole thing here, said, just go ahead and do the show. It'll be on the internet. And but we're so happy that it's back on the air this morning. And I hope you managed to tune in, even though it was off the air for quite a while. Don't know what the issue was. You know, we had that one winter day when Jake and I were the only two in Youngstown that I think were out and about. We were here in the morning, and, the station was okay then, but you get a day like today. It's just a little cloudy, and it's off the air. Go figure. But anyway, so, hey, I finally got my show website up and running. I'm so excited, and it's been a long haul, let me tell you. I'm trying to get enough things put together to get on there before it actually launched so that it would be interesting for people to go to it initially. It's going to build over time, folks. My website is going to be, I believe, what I hope for is a place people can go for valid health information, things that have been verified through research, things that have been verified through my personal research and my clinical experience and other doctors' clinical experience who do this sort of thing. I'm going to have some short interviews on there with some like-minded professionals. I'm going to have already, my podcasts are all on my website now, where you can access those very easily. I've had some people tell me they were a little frustrated trying to go to WKBN's site to listen to them and things. You can go right to my website now, folks, and you can listen to any one of the podcasts that you want to hear. And I highly recommend that you immerse yourself in this material and make it a part of who you are. When you make it a part of your subconscious mind, you'll just do these things automatically, and health will be the automatic outcome. That's the really cool thing about this. It's just, you just have to learn to eat differently. It's not that hard, honestly. And, I'm working on some things to put on there, ways to help people who are used to having meat or cheese or dairy at every meal, and ways to get people, well, for instance, let's try just, if you eat meat every meal, let's try to go just to once a day, have it with your dinner or have it with your lunch, but the other meals go meatless. And I think that's a great way to ease into this, and you'll see that over time, you'll not only lose your taste for meat, you'll feel better, and it'll help to motivate you to go more in that direction. Anyway, all this stuff is going to be on my website. Some of it already is. I wrote, I think, a good article that gives you kind of a sense of where I came from as far as my journey on this whole health discovery thing. And maybe it'll help you in some ways that you can see some parallels. I talk about the illnesses that I had, how I've overcome that, and exactly what my thinking is. And then we're going to go on from there. I'm going to add more articles that explain the underpinnings, what I call the common denominator between many diseases, and some that I'm sure that you may be suffering from, and what the solution to that is. And it's not a snap of the finger instant solution, but it is a long-term thing. When you learn to eat correctly, your body goes into automatic mode and it starts to correct things on its own. It's powerful, powerful stuff. And I'm going to touch on that this morning because something my preacher said yesterday at church kind of keyed me into this, and I want to share that with you. It's all interconnected out there, my friends. It's not willy-nilly, you got disease here, you have, how you think and how you act and the things you eat. It's all one big, beautiful picture. And when you do it right, when you head down the right path, health blossoms. Great health, incredible health blossoms. That's where the name of the show came from. Even though I still occasionally will have some little issue here or there, they're pretty much all self-inflicted. If there are things that you push myself too far on one, like I tried exercising very heavily for a while. I got into it a little too fast, and I had to back off a little bit. You learn what your parameters are. I just turned 60 this last week, and at 60, you have different boundaries of what you can and can't do than when you were 20 or 30. And you need to accept that if you're going to be happy for the rest of your life, and you need to accept that there are some limitations. And yet, those limitations can be expanded. Think of my friend Dr. Merkin, and him and his wife, who ride a couple 100 miles a week on their bikes, and the guy's 85 years old. He didn't just get up at 85 and say, I'm going to start riding 200 miles a week. He eased into it. And the guy eats a healthy diet, too. And who knows? Maybe he's not perfect all the time. I don't know. I believe that nobody is perfect all the time, since maybe Jesus Christ, but the rest of us, we have to find our own way. And so we're weak. We're going to make mistakes. Go with it and do the best you can. So anyway, this website, I want you to go check this out. And please try to visit it at least once a week. And it's at drvitkohealth.com. That's drvitko health.com. And that's going to be my go-to website in connection with this show and moving forward in trying to get more and more people involved in this movement to understand and really grow and appreciate this plant-based health movement, which is going to take hold, I promise you, over the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. You're going to hear more and more about this because that's where the research is saying, look, this is the best stuff going. That's where the research is saying you have your best chance of being healthy when you go this route. So why wouldn't we embrace it? Why would you wait for science to come down and say, this is exactly what works, and do this and you will be healthy, or take this pill and you will always be healthy? That's baloney. These things we know there's enough ample research out there to support all this. And then you got guys like me, and there are more people like me around than you think who are physicians of one sort or another, maybe medical, probably not so many medical, but more in the chiropractic field or in a naturopathy, who understand that the real power of healing lies in what you eat day in and day out. And it is that consistency that makes a difference. So go to drvitkohealth.com, check it out, like the page. I'm not even sure if we have our like up and running yet, but I'm looking over here at Jake because Jake's tinkering around with that now. And look, I want to give my young friend Jake, who is my producer here too, a hand and thank him for what he's done. He's helped me to get this set up correctly. I still don't understand everything. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but with the internet. But Jake seems to know it, and so we still have a few things we need to make it work perfectly. But I like the way it's shaping up so far. So right now, like I say, there's podcasts on there, a couple of articles, and there's going to be links on there. There's a speech on there that I gave. It's about a 40-minute speech. If you're up to that, I think there's good stuff in it. And I was very passionate about that, as I always am. And I think it comes through in the speech. That I did for Meals on Wheels in Columbiana. It was a fundraiser a couple of years ago, and that went very well. And so, there's all kinds of articles that are going to be on there and all kinds of links to other sites that support what I'm saying, and maybe some that argue the other side of it. But you can bet I'll dismantle those arguments as readily as I can, because there's no question from what I've seen that this stuff works the best. So my goal is to make this the go-to website. People that are looking for health, I want them to be able to go there and go and come away saying, this is something I want to send my friends to, because obviously it's well backed by research. It's well backed by clinical experience. This guy puts his neck out, Dr. Vitko, because he has seen these benefits himself, and boom, we can grow that movement from there. So if you like what you see, I ask you, please share it with your friends. We need to build an audience on this if we're going to carry this thing as far as we can. You can help me make this whole movement successful. And there are other people out there, Dr. Katz that was on here, Dr. Merkin, Dr. McDougall, Jamie Brinkus. All these people are all on board with this. And Mark Huberman, with the National Health Association. It's all aligned to help people get better. And to me, the really cool thing is, for most of these people, even if there was no money, no profit involved, they'd still be doing this because they live it and they see the results and they care deeply about helping other people. So that's why this whole thing ties together into one big, beautiful picture. And you can be a part of it, and I highly recommend you do. So a couple of things I'm going to go through today. If you'd like to call in today, I'll probably have some time to take a couple of phone calls. I won't ignore you if you do call. The number here is 729-9977. That's 729-9977. If you have a question, have your thoughts in order when you call so we don't waste a lot of time, but I'd love to hear from you this morning. So my wife Denise and I were at church yesterday, and we went last night instead of this morning, partly to avoid the big crowd. By the way, did I say Happy Easter? Well, Happy Easter if I didn't. And what a great time of year, right? So we were at church last night because, we kind of wanted to avoid the Easter Sunday morning crowd. And it's, it can get pretty busy on Sunday morning, Easter Sunday, because, a lot of people maybe go to church that don't ordinarily go to church during the year. And that's cool. I understand that. And, but last night it was particularly good for me. And I've told you before, I'm not the world's most spiritual guy, maybe, and not the most religious guy. But I do have a deep belief in God. And that belief in God is strengthened with every little nuance I learn about our body and other living things and life in general. It is just so miraculous, folks, when you look at how things work. And we can just take the human body in particular, but it applies to other animals, other mammals as well, all the way down to the earthworm, the simple earthworm. The complexity of how it works, and yet the simplicity of how things happen automatically just astound me. Something as simple as production of red blood cells in your body. And I know I've told you this before, and maybe you remember it, maybe you don't, but your body produces 2 to 3 million new red blood cells every second of every day, and you don't even have to think about it. 2 to 3 million. Now, yeah, these things are microscopic, but the complexity of them is tremendous. Each red blood cell has 270 to 300,000 molecules within each red blood cell that need to be arranged really in a perfect order in order to give that cell structure and make it work the way it should, to make it very flexible and make it slippery. It's very important what goes into those red blood cells and the order in which they are arranged within the membrane. And it happens automatically 2 to 3 million times every second. That's mind-boggling. And to think that that could happen by chance is one of the most ludicrous, ridiculous ideas I could ever think of. And so there has to be a designer. There has to be a grand design behind this whole thing. And when we look at the diversity of life on Earth, you should get goosebumps on your arms. There are days when I look out in the backyard at my bird feeder and I see the number of different birds there and really the beauty in the combinations of colors and their feathers. And it's to me, it is ridiculous to think that all this diversity of life, happened by chance. It defies logic, much like using modern medicine to keep us healthy defies logic. It's great at saving lives, but it's not going to make us healthy. But going back to the diversity of life, and we humans have this complexity to us. I just told you one little thing about the red blood cells. 2 to 3 million every second with hundreds of thousands of molecules in each of those 2 to 3 million cells arranged perfectly. It puts me in awe. And there are thousands, if not millions, of different things that happen in the human body that happen automatically that we don't even have to think about. Thank God, because if anybody can screw things up, it's we humans that can really screw up. Thank God it's out of our control. You ever think about the weather? Thank God mankind cannot control the weather. We would screw that up something terrible. Now, when you live in Northeast Ohio, you might say, well, the weather's not so great anyway a good part of the time. But we have had some sunny, nice days lately, and so I'd much rather not have us have control of that for sure. Things happen automatically, it's better. But anyway, so going back to Denise and I went to church last night, and our preacher, he said some good things. And there were a lot of things I was sitting there thinking, that really plays into the whole health picture. That really can be tied into health. And so the quote of the day that I'm going to use today is something he said last night, and that came from Romans chapter 8, verse 11. And this is the New Living Translation, but the quote is, "The Spirit of God, who raised Jesus from the dead, lives in you. And just as God raised Christ Jesus from the dead, he will give life to your mortal bodies by the same Spirit living within you." I've always believed that we each have the Spirit of God within us, and that's what really controls all these functions in our body, or at least put them in place and put them into motion. And, that explains a lot to me. And obviously the preacher was talking about spirituality, but I'm also talking about health here, in that from this quote, I believe it's obvious that God put this healing ability, this innate healing ability. Chiropractors love to talk about innate. Innate is an inborn or godly placed thing that is an automatic thing that actually makes us healthy and makes all these reactions, chemical reactions and physical changes in our body take place automatically. So that's what innate intelligence is. It's inborn intelligence so that our body knows what to do. And why not that it is from the Spirit of God that dwells in each one of us? And so it's all the more reason to keep our body as pristinely healthy as possible. Because if the Spirit of God lives within our body, I think God would appreciate if we would keep our body as healthy as we can. So that's all the preaching I'm going to do today. I'll talk about health a little bit, but I'll occasionally tie it into the Bible because I can't help but notice, folks, the correlations that are there and the wisdom that existed back in biblical times about health is pretty amazing. And they were actually spot on many things that they could not have known the science that we have now, but they demonstrated a knowledge of that, and Jesus in particular, and with fasting in particular. And I'll talk about fasting here in a little bit. I want to touch base about something I saw in the news about fasting. But, just bear with me on these things. Like I say, I'm not the most religious or spiritual guy on earth, but these correlations to the knowledge that has come out of the Bible and the knowledge that is in the Bible is pretty amazing stuff. And I think it both, kind of solidifies that whole message that the Bible's putting out. And, hey, we know, too, that, that if you think good thoughts and you have a good emotional state, you have a much better chance of being healthy as well. So that plays into it as well. And it comes down to that stress thing. You want to manage stress. But nothing helps you manage stress better than eating a healthy diet. And I can vouch for that personally as well because, eating healthfully has changed my emotions and my ability to see things more clearly and to kind of think things through more accurately before I react. We're all reactionary to some degree by nature. And to be able to step back and wait and think things out before we react, and we react then in a logical way that will have better outcomes, and we don't get all upset and emotional about things, it's much better for us, and it's better for the chemistry in your body because your thoughts and emotions do affect your chemistries. Your chemistries in your body also affect your thoughts and emotions, and that's how eating a healthier diet, eating the foods we are designed to eat, eating the correct foods for our body, that's how that can affect your emotional state and your stress levels. And there probably are scientific studies that support that. As a matter of fact, I think I've seen a couple of things that relate to that. You're going to find too many scientists that are going to kind of jump off into the emotions and spirituality and that kind of stuff. But some of these studies support chemically, what's happening in our body. And they can measure a lot of those chemical changes and how it relates to different emotional situations. And so, these people that perform these studies, they give us a little glimpse into how stress maybe affects our health overall, and certainly our emotional health. But I do believe that the underpinnings of good emotional health and good physical health have in common a healthy diet. The diet we're supposed to eat, the plant-based diet that actually helps foster good health and helps our good health to blossom in our body instead of going the other way. From the time you're born, I've heard it said, from the time you're born, you are beginning to die. You're heading toward death. Well, what a glum way to look at things. But I believe that that's not necessarily the way we should look at it. The way we should look at it is we want to keep our physical state as good as we can and to be as healthy as we can to the natural end of a productive life. So this is Dr. David Vitko. You're listening to Enjoy Incredible Health, and we'll be right back with you after a couple of announcements. Thanks for listening, folks. Happy Easter.
Welcome back to Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
Okay, we're back, and I'll tell you, I just feel giddy, folks. You know, I didn't know if we were actually going to be on the air or not. I was in my office at about 5 o'clock this morning, and I tried to tune in WKBN, had nothing. And all the way in here, I had nothing. And I'm thinking, we're not even going to be on the air. And so Melissa and John, thank you so much. I appreciate the engineers here. Thank you, and thanks, Keith Kennedy, for getting us back on the air. You know, you just don't know. I'm not on Facebook Live yet, so I don't know. I haven't built my audience that big. I need to do that, and that's going to be the push in the next few weeks since I got my website up now. And by the way, that's drvitkohealth.com if you want to go to the website. But so I need to get Facebook Live going, because if something like that happens, you know, I may be talking to 3 people over the internet through wkbn.iheart.com. Or maybe on the iHeart app, I don't know. Or, you know, but the broadcast, that's where the biggest audience is for me right now, and I'm just excited. Thank you, Melissa and John, for getting us back on the air, and Keith for your attention to that. So, again, if you want to call in, the number is 729-9977. That's 729-9977. I'll be happy to take your call, any questions about health. And Betty called in, and she couldn't hang on because she's on her way to church. And that's a good thing. But she was asking something about swallowing. And I didn't get to talk to her personally, so I don't know the whole thing. But she's having difficulty swallowing, which happens often with people as we age. And there's a couple different things that can happen in your esophagus. You can actually get almost like ulcerations in the esophagus, or what they call esophageal varices. Or you can get spasms in the esophagus where you'll swallow something and it almost feels like a tightness in your chest when you swallow it, because the concentric waves of muscle contraction that normally carry food or water or anything down your esophagus to your stomach have a hard time. They can't function quite in the right order. And so you almost get a spasm in there that stops the movement of food. And so that's a common thing. Depending on what the problem is, and aside from what the problem is, there is one thing that I've found, and you know I'm not big on supplements, but there's something, it's an amino acid, it's called L-glutamine, which really helps with either any kind of irritation in the esophagus, which can come from GERD or just come from regular acid reflux, which is not quite as bad as GERD and things like that. And it can actually help to settle down that spastic situation over time. And you can get L-glutamine pretty much at any health food store. I buy mine direct from a manufacturer, and I think it's good quality. Sometimes that's the problem. You don't really know what kind of quality you're getting. You want to make sure you get something that's going to do the best it can for you. And take it every day, you know, for over several weeks to a couple of months. And that will help to settle down what's going on inside the esophagus. Usually it's some kind of ulceration, some kind of irritation of the lining of the esophagus that starts the whole thing off. And so you need to settle that down. L-glutamine is well known to help with that. Avoid things like coffee, tea, soda, and the plant-based diet helps with that, my friends, because it has a large amount of fiber in it. Our bowel, from the top to the bottom, needs fiber. And you heard Dr. Merkin on here, Dr. Gabe Merkin, talking on my show about how the bacteria that you develop in your gut actually develops according to what you eat. If you eat toxic things that actually sit in your bowel for a long time, like meat, or things that ferment in your bowel, like sugar, and meat ferments in your bowel as well, or things like some dairy products, things like that, you are going to create bacteria in your bowel that do toxic things in your bowel and actually decrease the normal function and normal absorption of nutrients. You know, the bacteria in your bowel actually help us to absorb nutrients. And if you have the wrong type, you aren't going to be absorbing the nutrients like you should. And so it's very important to kind of foster that healthy bacterial gut flora. And one of the ways to do that is regularly feed it fruits and vegetables. That is where the good fiber is that actually restores normal function to our bowel. And even things like having a spastic esophagus, over time, it's going to help it. You know, we have this problem in this country where people think that when you eat something, you should get this immediate result. So if somebody has a spastic esophagus and they start eating fruits and vegetables and they do it for a couple of days and they go, that doesn't work. Well, I promise you it's not going to work that quick because the healing process takes time. Even when you use drugs, the healing process, if it's going to happen at all, happens behind the scenes because the drugs don't actually fix anything. But the drugs may make you feel better and maybe promote a little bit of stability in there for a time where healing can take place. So when you eat fruits and vegetables, it takes longer, actually, because the healing process, although maybe slow, is complete. For instance, I had GERD for years, and mine started when I was building my first house. We built a log house back in the, I think it was the early 90s. I think it might have been 90, 91, something like that. And my dad and I and my wife Denise and my mother and I had some other people. My brother-in-law came out a couple times and helped. We had, it was a family effort basically. And my dad and I are out there working, and one day, the guys that put the chimney foundation in place put it in the wrong spot. And so my dad and I were busy tearing that down, and I was a little anxious about the whole thing, as younger guys would be. And, we got the whole thing torn down, and we're working away. And my wife brought us out a sandwich. And Denise brought us out, I think it was a tuna sandwich, and maybe a tiny bit on the dry side, and which is good because not as much mayonnaise is better. No mayonnaise is even best, actually. But anyway, so eating this sandwich, and I was eating it kind of quickly, and wow, I just got this spasm in my chest, and it was a terrible pain. And I thought I was having a heart attack right at the time, but it was this esophageal spasm from trying to swallow this big bolus of food too quickly, and this esophagus went into spasm. Well, I sat down, caught my breath. It took several minutes, I think, for the thing to ease up totally. And I had an ongoing problem with that for probably a year or so after that. And from time to time beyond that, the acid reflux would be terrible. I mean, I could eat dinner at 6 o'clock at night and go to bed at 11, and I couldn't lay down because of the acid coming up into my esophagus and giving us that thing we used to call heartburn years ago, before they came up with a scientific name for it, like GERD or acid reflux. And, it took me really a couple of years because I didn't go right on a good, plant-based diet. I kind of willy-nilly'd around with it and increased my fruits and vegetable consumption and just a little bit here and there, and gradually that healed. And I can tell you, folks, now that I eat primarily fruits and vegetables, melons, nuts, seeds, berries. Occasionally we'll have a little bread. I try not to do it too often. I try to limit any kind of caffeine that I take in, and I certainly limit alcohol. That's the other thing that, for people that are having problems swallowing, alcohol can be a significant irritant to it, and tea can be a significant irritant to it, not to mention coffee or any acidic drink like sodas. But it now, the way that I eat now has healed my gut to the point where I could eat tacos at 11 o'clock at night and go to bed at 11:15, and I would not have acid reflux. And this is coming from a guy who couldn't lay down 6 hours after eating something bland, and I would have acid reflux. So the healing does take place. You simply have to toe the line long enough to give the body a chance to heal. And whenever I hear people say, I tried a plant-based diet, and I did that. I was actually strict for 2 or 3 weeks, and I just, I felt a little better, but I kind of got gassy and things like that, and so I gave it up and I went back to meat. I have to have meat or I have to have cheese. That's baloney. People just really don't give things long enough to heal. And a plant-based diet has the power to heal like nothing else. but you have to stick with it. It takes time for your body to adapt to it, and as it adapts, healing is taking place. You may not notice it for a while, but at some point in time, and I see this all the time with my patients, folks, if I continue to work with them and encourage them, and I think that's what I'm best at, is to keep people motivated and, keep them realizing there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if you stay with it, I've seen it with patients time and time again. Oh, I can't eat this or that. I can't drink orange juice, which if you're going to drink orange juice, you better drink it with the pulp, as Dr. Merkin told us before, and as I recommend. You need that fiber. Drinking fruit juice without fiber is like drinking soda, basically. So you need that fiber. But anyway, I keep encouraging these patients, and over time, then sooner or later, I'll say, well, how you doing with that? How you doing with the orange juice thing? Oh, I have no problem with that now. It's a matter of getting the healing to a point where symptoms go away. Symptoms will begin to subside sometimes early on. You have to look closely for the signs, but they do go away over time, and you just have to keep your eye on the prize and be consistent and persistent. You can't let down. You need to keep working in the direction that works. So with that in mind, I want to say that if you have back pain, neck pain, strained muscle, some kind of pain that just won't go away, and you had several doctors check it out, and they did all kind of tests, and they, did blood work and this and that, and x-rays and CAT scans, and they can't figure out why your pain doesn't go away, call my office for a consultation. After 30-some years in practice, I actually love challenging cases. There was a time when I would shy away from those because I didn't have the experience or the knowledge. But the way I work now, my friends, if I can't find the problem, if I can't figure it out, I know enough people and I know the direction to send you in to make sure we find results. If you're in pain, or you have a digestive disorder, or you have you got high blood pressure, you have high cholesterol, high triglycerides, high uric acid, you have gout, there are answers to those things. There are natural answers to those things. You just have to persist at it, and they do improve. And most of my patients that do those things can get off medications. If they're on prescription drugs for those prescription drugs cause their own sets of issues. Talk about causing acid reflux. A lot of people get this GERD issue or get this spastic esophagus issue because they overuse things like ibuprofen or aspirin. That does severe damage to your stomach. And it can, things like antibiotics. I was just talking to somebody the other day that a long-term course of antibiotics screwed up her bacteria in her bowel to the point where she had all kind of bowel issues. And she's found that by using some prebiotics and eating a better diet, those bowel issues cleared up. Or at least improved significantly. And so the answer is there. But anyway, you actually have the ability to heal, folks. There are a few times when you're stuck with what you have, maybe, but that's rare. Everybody has the potential to heal. Don't forget, we have this built-in healing ability that I believe was put there by God. That's the most powerful healing there is. But you can't just sit back and pray and hope for it. You have to demonstrate that you want it and that you're willing to make changes that will allow it to blossom. Or, like I sometimes like to say, you need to light the fuse to launch that healing ability. And at that point, your body will start making changes. So if you have these problems, call Denise at 482-9550. That's 330-482-9550. That's my office. Denise will set you up for an appointment. For $75, you can come in and sit down with me for an hour, or as long as it takes. I'm not looking at the clock. Believe me. I get upset when I hear these medical doctors that only have 4 or 5 minutes with a patient because they're in some big structured care organization that says you need to make your decisions in 4 minutes. There's no way you can get good care in that time, my friends. So you come in with me, sit down with me. We're going to sit down for at least 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes or more. We're going to get to the root of your problem. We're going to help you feel better. This is Dr. David Vitko. You're listening to Enjoy Incredible Health. We'll be back in just a minute.
Welcome back to Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
Alrighty, in a few minutes we have left. First, I want to go back to that whole idea of emotional health and stress and reducing those things in our lives, because everybody feels stress. We hold it in our shoulders and our neck, and I see this in my patients time and time again. Everybody comes in all stressed out, whether it's family or work or something. We all have something that stresses us out. So I found something that really helps me to reduce stress besides my plant-based diet, which I'll go to my grave believing that has a huge effect on emotions and on stress. And I wish we could go into the prisons and hospitals and nursing homes and put everybody on a more plant-based diet, if not a plant-based diet, and I'll bet we could make a tremendous change in the psyche of these people in their mental state. But one of the things that helps me is, and I believe this with all my heart, we need to do good things for others because it makes us feel good. Obviously, we do it because it helps them, but it makes us feel good, right? Don't you feel really good when you can actually do something that helps somebody else? I do. So one of the lines I like to use to say to someone when they say, well, thank you for, doing this for me. I actually was given quite a few skills that come in handy. I can do mechanical things. I can help people with health. There's actually quite a few things. And I thank God all the time for the skills I've been given. And, I give my dad credit for a lot of the mechanical abilities and the way I am as a person. Maybe wasn't so great when I was younger, but I've grown in that whole thing. But one of the lines I like to use is, I'm just thankful God gave me a few skills I can use to help others' lives be better. And I truly mean that. And you have skills that can make other people's lives better too. We all have something we're good at. And I don't care what it is, when you brighten somebody else's day, I honestly believe, and if you believe in God, I believe that makes God smile. Because I think, I've been on this earth for 60 years now. And it is the one thing that makes me truly happy when I can help other people. And it doesn't mean giving money. You can donate money. That's great. Yeah, it makes you feel good. But when you actually do something personally for somebody and help somebody in some way, it just gives you this deep down feeling of worthiness, of being worthwhile. So I really hope we can all make God smile today by helping somebody else. Happy Easter, folks. Thanks so much for listening. This is Dr. David Vitko, and we'll talk to you in a week or so. Thanks so much.